Bryce Harper's having a big year, but the Nationals aren't going to make the playoffs. Can Andrew McCutchen move ahead of him and win the NL MVP?
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's Proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Jay Dash. Talking lots of Bucko baseball this week for you. We're going to talk about Andrew McCutchen. Dash doesn't like the fact that Harper could win MVP even though his team's not going to make the playoffs. He likes it better when the MVP comes from a playoff team. I actually have to agree with him. I know it's rare that we agree on things. We usually just scream at each other and then shank each other when the episode's over. But I don't like it. I don't like when teams who don't make the playoffs win it. It's got to be so much better of a year to me than what Harper's having now. And you have to, and I don't mean that way. I mean, like, you have to be so much further ahead of the other guys. Like, there are too many people nipping at his heels for him to just say he's the clear-cut winner coming from a non-playoff team.
Well, let's look at some of Andrew McCutchen's competition. First, if you're going to go with a pitcher, it's probably going to be Zach Greinke of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But for argument's sake, let's keep him out of this conversation.
Yeah, they get their own Cy Young. Get out of here, pitchers.
But then you can look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, Paul Goldschmidt. This guy is
gold.
Definitely the best first baseman in baseball, no doubt. He's hitting .317 this season, has a .431 on-base percentage, 27 home runs, 97 RBIs, and 86 runs
He's
scored.
almost on base 50% of the time he comes to the plate. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, look, 102 walks compared to 130 strikeouts and 496 at-bats. Not to mention, he also has 21 stolen bases as well. So he could get to a 25-25 season here by season's end, and he's having a great season. But the Arizona Diamondbacks are sitting at 67 and 73 right now, so they're not going to make the playoffs. And if you're going to take a guy that didn't make the playoffs, it has to be Bryce Harper. Look at this, man. He's hitting .336 with a .467 on base, 36 home runs, 85 RBIs, already scored 104 runs. He's taken 109 walks compared to 113 Ks and 449 at-bats. And really, if you go by stats alone, there's no doubt it has to be Bryce Harper as the MVP for the National League.
But if you go by attitude alone?
Well, then it would have to be Andrew McCutchen because he's supposedly the next Roberto Clemente, right?
Please believe.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far. I hate the Roberto Clemente comparison with Andrew McCutchen.
He's Roberto Clemente. Nobody's as good as him.
But yeah, I mean, when that completely eliminates Paul Goldschmidt because, yeah, he's having a great season. He's definitely the best first baseman in baseball. It's hard to find a first baseman that can steal you 20 bases. He's really kept Arizona relevant for most of this season. But again, if you're going to go with a guy that didn't make the playoffs, it has to be Bryce Harper. And it, like I said, we just did a segment on the NL playoff picture, and Washington is most likely not going to make the playoffs. In fact, I mean, they have to go on a tear right now. Yeah. They're 7.5 games back through 139 games. So they
everything in Washington sucks.
Yeah,
baseball,
so they're pretty much
basketball, football, hockey.
But stats alone, it would be Harper, and that would eliminate Paul Goldschmidt in my mind. But then you look, there's another guy here, another first baseman, Anthony Rizzo. He is hitting .285, has a .392 on base, 29 jacks, 88 ribbies, 81 runs, has taken 67 walks compared to just 89 strikeouts and 499 at-bats. This is a guy that doesn't strike out much, and like Goldschmidt, he can steal some bases, has 15 stolen bases this season. And this is a guy that is going to make the playoffs. Now, if you look, though, his numbers don't really compare to Paul Goldschmidt or Bryce Harper per se. But if he could get this team above the Pittsburgh Pirates and maybe secure up that home game for the wild card, I mean, there is a possibility that he could be the option if you're looking at guys that did make the playoffs. But really, his numbers aren't too much better than Andrew McCutchen's. I mean, McCutchen is hitting .299 right now with a .400 on-base percentage, 22 home runs, has more RBIs with 90 RBIs, and he's scored 82 runs. So their numbers are a little bit more similar. And really, I mean, you look, Andrew McCutchen, he hit .348 last month in August with a .470 on base, ended up getting Player of the Month. And, I mean, he was really on top of his game at that point. But this month, he's only hitting .212. But he does still have a .341 on-base percentage and has 2 home runs over his past 3 games with 5 RBIs in that span. What McCutchen needs to do to secure up this MVP, I believe, is the only way it could happen, in my opinion, is overtake the St. Louis Cardinals in this division. Now, it's not just Andrew McCutchen that has to do it. This whole team has to help out and overtake the Cardinals in this division. And if you win the division, I mean, yeah, Bryce Harper's numbers are still going to be better. Paul Goldschmidt's numbers are still going to be better. But McCutchen will have similar stats to Anthony Rizzo, obviously. And if you're going to go with a guy that made the playoffs, how about someone that actually pushed towards the end of the season and helped his team get to the playoffs by winning the NL Central, a division that looked lost for not necessarily lost for most of the season, but they really haven't.
Unattainable, maybe.
It hasn't been back and forth with the Cardinals and the Pirates. It's been the Cardinals ahead since pretty much day one this season. So if the Pittsburgh Pirates can come out in this last stretch of the season here against pretty much all NL Central teams, overtake the Cardinals. Now, Andrew McCutchen got a hit well down the stretch, too. He can't hit .212 from here on out. It looks, like I said, it looks like he's starting to turn it around this month. But hit over 300 the rest of the month, have your normal 400 on-base percentage or whatever. Help this team overtake the St. Louis Cardinals. And then I really think, unless you're going by pure stats alone, you have to take Andrew McCutchen as the MVP.
I think the thing that will hurt McCutchen the most is his early season struggles. His numbers would be just a tiny bit better, if he would have hit his average anyway, in those early seasons. And I don't think enough people value coming down the stretch, like playing as hard and playing as good and like kind of willing your team into the playoffs and into the division race as much as others, and they're just kind of blind voters where they look at stats only and they just kind of go by that. So and I don't like that. The MVP, it's the most valuable player to your team, and if McCutchen is probably the most valuable player to his team in the NL Central, I would say. Without McCutchen, our baseball team isn't terrible, but there's just something about that guy.
I mean, yeah, he's having a great season. He did get off to the slow start. He obviously turned it around pretty quick. Hit 194 in April, but by the end of May, he was hitting, he hit 330 in that month, but he was hitting 275 by the end of the month.
Yeah, if he even hit 270 in April, his numbers would be beast.
Definitely. But, I mean, you still look, man, he's hitting 299 at this point. His average was actually at 305 at the end of August, so he was still hitting over 300. His on-base percentage still up around 400. The one thing that is really hurting McCutchen this season that he showed every season's up until this season is that stolen base potential. He only has 7 stolen bases this season, and this is a 5-tool player. When you talk about 5-tool players, speed is one of those tools, and Anthony Rizzo has more stolen bases than him, a first baseman. Paul Goldschmidt has more stolen bases than him, another first baseman. Now, Bryce Harper does not have more stolen bases than him, but like I said, Harper's stats do not compare to Andrew McCutchen's. Harper just blows him out of the water. But, like I said, the Nationals were the favorite to win their division and represent the NL in the World Series, and they've been nothing but a letdown. While it hasn't been Bryce Harper's fault at all, I mean, it's just hard to pick that guy as the most valuable player because, I mean, this team was supposed to win, and if he was really that valuable, wouldn't you think that would completely put them over the top? I'm not saying anything bad about Bryce Harper because this guy is a monster. I don't know. If Anthony Rizzo took the Cubs and they somehow overtook the Cardinals down this last stretch, I would say give it to Anthony Rizzo. Even though Paul Goldschmidt, same position, better numbers across the board, Anthony Rizzo drove his team to the playoffs in the end. And, I mean, he has been the leader on this team.
I agree about the playoffs. You just got to be there to win MVP. Harper's season's beast. He's got to be the only candidate that can win it without making it.
Yeah, I believe so, too. And really, I think it comes down right now, if the season ended today, it would either be Bryce Harper, if you're going to give it to the guy that doesn't make the playoffs, or it got to be Andrew McCutchen. I think Andrew McCutchen has done enough to at least outdo Rizzo. And like I said, Goldschmidt is automatically eliminated from Bryce Harper because you're not going to take him as a non-playoff guy over Harper. So it really, right now, it comes down to Andrew McCutchen or Bryce Harper to me. And the one way Andrew McCutchen can overtake Bryce Harper in this MVP race is lead this team to the NL Central title, and that should be enough.
It's probably the only way. Harper's numbers are beast.
They are beast.
I hate
but
that
that's
dude.
it. I think he just got to hit well down the stretch. This team got to help him out. Obviously, he can't just hit 400 and the team overtakes the Cardinals. I mean, the rest of the team got a hit, sort of like how they've been playing, but they haven't been good against the NL Central, so they really got to step it up here, and they're getting their pitching back too, which is going to help as well. So we're going to have to see. It's unlikely they overtake the Cardinals. Does that completely eliminate Andrew McCutchen out of the MVP conversation? Not necessarily, but I really think that would give him the edge over Bryce Harper if that were the case.
Harper's no A-Rod, but I guess we'll give him MVP.
Oh, Jesus.
That's all we got for you today. Thank you, Dash, for coming in. Thank you, fans, for listening. Fans, you can follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. You can follow me on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep going to our YouTube page. Click subscribe. Click thumbs up. Check out iTunes. Going to be putting a few episodes up there this week. Keep it real.